What if I told you that your menstrual cycle is actually a superpower? That it holds the key to your energy, your creativity, your confidence, and even your success. That the reason that you might be feeling burnt out, disconnected, exhausted is not because there's something wrong with you, but because you were taught to ignore the signs and the rhythm of your own body. For generations, women have been conditioned to suppress, to ignore, to hide, to even feel ashamed of their cycle. We have been told to push through, take a pill and make it disappear, pretend like it doesn't exist. But what if I told you that your body has been speaking to you all along through your cycle, and that now it is time for us to start listening? So today, as an honor of International Women's Day happening on the 8th of March, I invite you to reclaim your cycle as a source of power. Because the more you start to understand your cycle, the more you start to live in sync with your cycle, the better you're going to feel, the healthier you're going to feel, but you're also going to become unstoppable. So, welcome to a new episode of Not Your Regular Psychologist podcast. I love, love, love this topic. It's really close to my heart because ever since I started tracking my cycles some years ago, my life has literally changed. The way that I show up in my day to day life, the way that I interact with people, the way that I communicate myself, the way that I express myself, the way that I run my business, the way that I relate with myself has had such a big impact. Just being able to have all of this information and being able to adapt my routines, my day to day life based on what I naturally need and what my body is available for has been a game changer. So I'm super excited to dive deep into this topic. And I want to start a little bit with the awareness part, right? We all have some kind of story, some narratives, some truths around our cycle. And based on our experiences, what we've been taught really just shape the relationship that we have with our cycle. And so now, as I'm speaking, I'm already going back to my childhood, kind of, right? When I was in school and I started to bleed and have my cycles, there were so many experiences, little moments that have conditioned and shaped my relationship with my cycle, the relationship I have with menstrual cycle in general, what I believe about it, what I think about it, right? And so I remember, for example, one day I was bleeding, was my first heavy bleed day. And it happened to be the day that we have PE, physical education class. And I remember feeling so heavy and I didn't have the energy to really do high intensity exercise, but I didn't dare to communicate this. I didn't dare to tell the teacher or anyone around that I was in my, first period day, that I was bleeding a lot, that I was not feeling well, and that I really didn't want to engage in such kind of activity, right? So I literally just pushed through. I learned that I couldn't use it as an excuse. And so already in experiences like this, I learned that I had to ignore my body and that I just had to push through. And then another experience, for example, is when I was in science class and I was also bleeding heavily and I kind of dirtied my pants and I dirtied the chair. And after class, my teacher kind of noticed. So she came to me kind of like hidingly in a very secretively way, and she whispered something to me and quickly and hidingly gave me like a paper, and inside there was like a pad. And eventually she probably did this to kind of be discreet and not make me feel ashamed. But that experience gave me an understanding that no one should know that I am bleeding. No one should know that I'm in this phase and I should hide it. Right? So there are many moments like this that have shaped and conditioned the relationship we have with our cycles. I already learned at a very young age to disconnect from my body, to ignore the signs of my body and push through. I cannot use it as an excuse. No one should know that I'm bleeding and that I should hide it from everyone, right? Kind of pretend that it's not existing. And so, as we're going to be speaking about cycle awareness, I guess it's a really good moment to start with, to start bringing awareness. And what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What are the narratives that you have about it? How are you treating your cycle? Because the more awareness we bring, the more we can understand what our relationship looks like right now. And it's also going to help us break with the cycle of misinformation, of what we've been told versus what is actually the truth. I remember hearing stories of what happens to women when they're in menstruation in India, for example. And so it seems like women who are menstruating, they're not allowed to enter the temple. And based on how I was told these stories, I received it as something very negative, like women are weak and they're discriminating women and this is something wrong. But as I started understanding and diving deep into the topic, I actually understood that what's actually happening is that when we're menstruating, we have so much power, so much energy. Our vibrations are so high that it may disrupt the energy of a temple that is so high in energy. It's such a sacred space, right? So actually, now I'm able to see it as something so powerful. It's not that there's something wrong with us. It's not that we are weak. It's not that we should be left and kept to a side. It's actually that we are so powerful that we might be interfering with another space that has such high frequency. So again, it's a great moment for you to start reflecting, have a look at what your experiences have been, how they have shaped you, how they've conditioned you, how your mindset and narratives look like around the cycle, what stories you've been told and taught, right? And really start challenging them. Because most women have never been taught about their cycle beyond the you bleed once a month, right? But your cycle is so much more than that. Your cycle is a 28-day, generally speaking, roadmap, an internal roadmap that helps you understand. It's giving you information about your emotions, your energy level, your intuition. This is the case of one of my recent clients, Paula. She's a woman in her 40s. She runs two companies, and she came to me feeling exhausted, stressed, overworked, and just pushing through exhaustion. And so I asked her if she was tracking her cycles. And when I did, she was kind of confused. Like she never even considered that her menstrual cycle could have anything to do with the stress that she was feeling, the burnout, and even with her overall well being. And so, as I introduced her to the cycle awareness, she was shocked, right? She has been on birth control since age 16, and she believed that not having her period or being able to control when she was bleeding was the best life hack ever. And she actually shared with me how she was so convinced and so happy about this that she kept promoting it to all of her friends. And not too long ago, in one of our sessions, she actually began to cry as she felt a little bit guilty of, having treated herself like this and being so disconnected from her body and ignoring the signs of her body for decades. So as she's been tracking her cycle, she's bringing more awareness, she's building a beautiful relationship with herself. She's able to see how she's missing out on important information, the needs that she actually has, the signs of her body. And she understood something actually very huge for her. And this is that the reason that she feels so disconnected from herself and her life in general is not because she is not disciplined enough or that she's not being productive enough. She realized that the reason that she is so disconnected from herself is because she's constantly in that push mode. She is ignoring the signs of her body and doesn't allow herself to slow down, to rest, to recharge. And so it's beautiful now because she is starting to read the signs of her body and really start adapting her routines, her day to day in a way that's making her find more balance. And in a consequence, she's starting to eat healthier. She's more mindful with like her sleep hygiene. And this also is affecting her relationship with her husband. She's enjoying more quality time with him. So there are many situations like this, many experiences like this that can really have such a significant change in your life. So it's not just understanding what phase you're in, when you're bleeding, what's going on. It actually is how can I use this information that's available for me, my natural energy, my natural rhythm, and adapt it to my day to day life in a way that's going to serve me, in a way that's going to help me feel better, do better, and live a better quality of life. This is why it's so important to bring cycle awareness. For me, it's honestly like the ultimate self care tool, right? Because your cycle is not just you waiting and counting the days until your next period. It is really an internal roadmap. It's giving you so much information about you. And, for example, like I've mentioned, it helps you understand your emotions better. So if you're wondering why there are moments in your life that you're super social and outgoing and like an extrovert and super proactive, and suddenly there are days that you're super inwards and you just want to retreat, then you're going to be able to understand this. You're going to be able to understand your energy levels. And like this, you will know when to take on a challenge, when to push hard, when to work a little bit longer, and when it's time for you to rest, slow down, and do other activities. You're also going to be able to work on your productivity levels, right? You're going to be able to work with your body and not against your body. And eventually, it's going to help you recognize your hormonal imbalances, right? So, really understanding what is actually normal and what parts actually need extra attention and care. So, like I was sharing about our stories and myths and narratives, there's such a big misconception with certain parts of our menstrual cycle. So, for example, of course, it is normal to feel some kind of pain, cramps, headaches when we're menstruating. But when the pain is very intense and too long, maybe it goes beyond this. Maybe there's something more happening, something hormonal, right? Or, for example, of course, it's normal to feel tired and it's a moment that you want to rest when you're menstruating, right? But when you're fatigued to an extent that you can't really function and it's just way too much that, really, really, really tired, then maybe there's something more happening. Maybe there is an iron deficiency. So it's important again to track because you're going to be able to see the patterns. You're going to be able to go beyond. And when you're able to become aware about what is actually going on, then you're eventually going to be able to give yourself and support yourself in a way that suits you. You're going to be able to accommodate yourself. And what happens here is that you build a beautiful relationship with yourself. You start to understand yourself. You're not going to be judging yourself. You're not going to be criticizing yourself and you're not going to be pushing yourself. So now just imagine if you could predict your emotions, your energy, your creativity every single month and use this in your advantage. How powerful is this? So I'm going to explain now like the different phases that we go through in our cycle, right? And what we can do with this, how we can work with the energy that's available. And the way that I like explaining this or the way that I like envisioning this is by thinking about the seasons of the year, right? We have four seasons: winter, spring, summer, and autumn, just like our internal seasons, right? We have four phases, four seasons that we go through. So think about what is actually happening in winter season. It is cold outside, the weather is kind of grayish, and you're somehow naturally invited to spend more time indoors. You want to wear like big clothes, you want to be in your pajamas, you want to be in your sofa, cuddle in your blanket, you want to watch Netflix, eat cookies, and just really cocoon, right? You really want to spend this time to rest, be with yourself in introspection. It's a moment where we're also kind of reflecting a lot, right? It's the end of the year, you're reflecting about the entire year, what has happened, what has not. It's also maybe bringing some kind of nostalgic feeling. It's the end of the year, it's Christmas. So it's a kind of an energy that's very much inwards, very much you want to be with yourself in reflection. Then in spring, it's kind of like we're blossoming, right? We're out there, the weather's better, you're more creative, you're more inspired, you want to start mingling with people, you want to be more social again. You're kind of out there, very inspired. And then we have summer, right? Where you're literally all over the place. You want to travel everywhere, be outdoors, wear different kind of clothes. You're more careless. You're really, really expansive. You have a beautiful energy and you're very like in this gratitude, abundance, high energy vibe, right? And then again, we have autumn. You again start kind of coming back to yourself. You start to self reflect. You want to go back to your routines, revisit your objectives, your goals, and really start getting more structure again. So I invite you to actually do this exercise. Think about all the seasons of the year and think about what they represent for you. What kind of energy they bring for you? What do you do in these seasons? What are you naturally inclined to be doing? So like this, it's going to be easier for you then to understand better your internal seasons. And so now I'm going to share what our internal seasons look like. Our cycle starts with the menstrual phase. This is when you are bleeding. This is day 1 to day 5, and this is your inner winter. What is happening here is that your body is shedding the uterine lining. Your energy is very low here, but your superpower is your intuition, deep reflection, visioning. This is the phase where you want to rest. You want to slow down. You want to cocoon, right? It's a moment for you of high intuition. So there's a lot of information within you that can be very valuable to you. There's a lot of inner wisdom here for you, many downloads, many aha moments, a lot of intuition that's guiding you into understanding things in your life, right? So it's a moment where you want to just spend time in your home and journal. You want to journal about, deep reflection, right? You want to journal about your life. You want to vision how your life would look like, the things that you want, that you don't want, what's working, what's not working. You maybe want to reflect about different concepts and just journal about this wisdom that's available for you coming from within. It's beautiful. And so this is again the phase that's inviting you to slow down and recharge. So I would suggest you really start blocking your calendar, saying, no to meetings or scheduling them other moments in your month. You want to also say no to social gatherings. You don't want to engage in high energy activities here. And so eventually this depends a lot in your particular situation, right? Everyone has their own conditions and different resources. So eventually you will adapt it to your life situation. Some of you work online, some of you work remotely, some of you run your own businesses, some of you have different kind of work situation. So eventually you are going to have to adapt it in the best way that you can within your conditions. And so again, if you can, it's a great moment to block time from your calendar. Just leave your calendar a little bit more empty so you can spend enough time with yourself in deep reflection, journaling, and just spending time indoors with yourself. It's also a moment where you don't want to make big decisions. So if you're considering buying a house or signing a contract or leaving your job or having a very important conversation where you have to make a decision, then maybe this is not the best time. All right, so then you would enter the second phase, which is the follicular phase. This is from day 6 to day 14, and this is your pre-ovulation phase. This is your inner spring. What's happening here is that your estrogen levels are rising, your energy is rising, and your superpower here is creativity, motivation, problem solving. In this phase, you are blossoming. You want to be starting your projects, you want to be brainstorming, you really want to be out there, right? You want to start socializing, you maybe want to start scheduling important meetings, you really want to start engaging in high energy activities. You have an energy that you feel inspired, motivated, ready to socialize with people, ready to share ideas, ready to brainstorm, really want to start taking action here. Then you would go into the third phase, which is your ovulation phase. This is day 15 to day 17, and this is your inner summer. As you can notice, this phase is shorter, and so you really want to take advantage of these days because they're super powerful. What's happening here is that your hormonal levels, your energy levels, are at its peak. They're super, super, super high. And your superpower here is your communication, your confidence, you're magnetic here. So this is the phase where you really want to be out there. If you are into public speaking or in your job, you have to give presentations. This is the moment. This is the moment you want to be visible. This is the moment where you want to be out there. You're going to be communicating. You're going to be visible. You're going to be doing your public speaking. You're going to be creating all this content and putting it online. This is your moment to pitch your ideas and to have deep, meaningful conversations. This is the moment where your energy is so, so, so high. You're so powerful. You're so magnetic. You start attracting people, projects, ideas, things. Everything feels in flow. You are also in a moment where you're going to be feeling very, very confident. Your body feels very confident. So your body posture is different. Maybe the clothes that you're wearing is different. So really use this powerful energy and just see its magic. Take it as your advantage. See all those things that are coming your way. You're very open. You're very receptive. You're very powerful and very magnetic. So in these days, there's magic that is happening. Then lastly, you will enter your last phase, which is the luteal phase. This is your premenstrual phase. And this is from day 18 to day 28. And this is your internal autumn. What's happening here is that your estrogen levels are dropping and your progesterone levels are rising. There's an energy fluctuation here. And so your superpower here is deep focus, it's completion, is also self-reflection. And so this is the moment where you're going to prioritize the behind the scene work. This is the moment where you're going to be editing, you're going to be organizing, that you're going to be finishing tasks. So you know that we all have like a to-do list, and there's some tasks that we can just kind of have there, but we never really do, never really finish them. This is the moment you do them. This is the moment where you're going to be finishing projects that you've kind of left there. You're going to be finishing tasks and things that you've kind of kept there in the list, but you never really do. This is the moment of your completion. You're going to be completing things. And if you think about the seasons of the year, we're going from the summer, the high intensity of summer, the high vibe, the all this extreme nice energy, and suddenly you experience a drop. So you might be feeling very emotional here, like you might be feeling a mood swing here, right? But this is just your body telling you that it's time to slow down. It's time to cocoon. It's time to prepare for the winter season. So it's very normal that you feel like irritable here and confusing and kind of like feel very emotional. But that's just because you're coming from this high intensity summer, and suddenly you're entering in a very different state where you suddenly start feeling more silent. You don't want to engage with people anymore. You kind of have a big drop. So it's also important that in this phase, you set clear boundaries, that you start saying no to all of the summer plans, right? That you stop engaging in all of these gatherings, networking events, socializing, because the energy is not there anymore. And you don't want to take yourself to an emotional exhaustion. So again, you really want to be mindful here with yourself and really set boundaries here, because what you're inclined to, the energy that's available here, is to have some deep reflection of what has happened in the summer season, what has everything that I've attracted, everything that I've done, all these people I've connected with, all the networking that I've done. It's a moment for you to deep reflect and kind of integrate all of this, to process all of this. It's a moment where you want to go back to your structures, reevaluate your routines, your habits, your tasks, your projects. So you just want to be in this space. So as you can see, understanding your cycle can give you so much information. Eventually, I'm just giving an overview, but it can go very, very deep. And I want to share two examples that are coming into mind on how valuable understanding your cycles and tracking your cycles is. So some of my clients mentioned to me, and actually this happens to me as well, in our premenstrual phase, so in our inner autumn, before going having our menstruation phase, we have a hard time communicating. So it's a moment where if I have to record content, I can't really put my words together. I'm not expressing myself well. And my clients actually mentioned this as well, that they have a hard time just expressing, communicating, sharing the message that they actually want to share. And so, for example, one of my clients, she is into public speaking. She gives many presentations. So imagine that she has to give a presentation and she is in her premenstrual phase and she knows that she has difficulties communicating, then she has a problem. If she can't postpone that presentation and she has to do it yes or yes, then she has to find ways to manage this situation in the best way she can. How can she support herself here? How can she sustain the space for her here with the energy that she has available? So actually what she's doing is that she has a notepad and she kind of has bullet points with the key messages that she wants to share so she doesn't miss out. And then I, for example, if I have a situation like this and I have to communicate, I have like a script that I kind of go over many times. So I kind of learn it. So I know that what I want to say and don't miss out on the things, because I know that I'm not lucid and words don't just come through easily as it would in another phase. Before I end this episode by sharing how you can start tracking your cycle, I do want to take a moment and share how important tracking our cycle and understanding our cycle is for our mental and emotional health. Like I've mentioned, tracking our cycles can really help us understand our emotions. And I want to share one last experience here so you can understand how valuable this is. This is a personal experience. Some years ago, I went to a women's retreat and I was super excited to connect with all the women and share with them and kind of have this sisterhood, high vibe kind of experience. But exactly those days, I was in my menstrual phase. So I was very low in energy and I was kind of inwards and I didn't really have the energy to speak and connect with the people. So yeah, that's the energy that I had. And we were actually, and so we were at the dinner table and all the women were connecting with one another and sharing all these stories. And I was just there, quiet, just having my meal. And back in the days, if I wasn't aware of my cycle and the energy that I had and why I was feeling such emotionally, I would have connected with my judgmental and critical self. I would be telling myself things like, oh, you're not like the other woman. What is wrong with you? Why don't you connect with them? You don't have the same energy. You're not interesting enough. Look at you. You're just quiet. You are like isolating yourself from the rest. You're not integrated in the group. All of these negative and rude comments. But because I was able to understand and acknowledge where I was at, I was able to meet myself there, right? I was able to be compassionate with myself and just tell myself, well, you know what? This is where you're at. This is how you feel. And this is it for you today. And what happened next was beautiful. The 3, 4 women that I had besides, one of the women kind of opened up a conversation and she was like, how do you all feel today? And it was a great opportunity for me to really share and express my truth and kind of let them know where I was at and how I was feeling. And they all acknowledged me. They all understood. They all were very receptive of this. And what happened next was even more beautiful. We ended up having such a deep conversation where we were all feeling so connected to each other. We were all resonating with each other's stories. And that was beautiful because I was able to create a space where I got what I needed, right? I wasn't ready for mingling with a big group of people and sharing all this high energy. I was more into a different energy. And so just being able to connect with myself, acknowledging where I am, and holding that space for me, I was still able to connect with others in a very deep way that actually they're my friends now. It's such a beautiful way. So, again, being able to understand our emotions also makes us treat ourselves better. And so, the next point is compassion. We're able to have more compassion with ourselves. And this also makes us have better relationship with ourselves, but also with those around us. Once you're able to understand yourself, how you're feeling, what you need in every moment, you're able to then express and communicate this. You're able to tell your partner, hey, I'm in this phase, this is what I need. And they can understand it, right? They can kind of hold a space for you, help you receive that which you need, and give you the kind of support that you need. But if we don't understand what is going on with us, what we need, what we want, what phase we're in, why we're feeling this way, what our thoughts look like, we're not able to let other people around us know. And so eventually, maybe they don't know how to support us, how to sustain us, right? And so we can start really creating more intimate and raw and close relationships with those around us as well. And last but not least, it also helps us reduce our anxiety and our overwhelming feelings when we're not able to understand the energy that we have or the emotional roller coaster that we're going through. We start judging ourselves, right? We start connecting with the fear based versions of us. We start to panic. We start to kind of suffocate. Our breathing is different. And so when we're able to understand, oh, well, this is what's actually going on, we can help us calm ourselves down. We can engage in mindfulness practices. We can engage in grounding practices. We can engage in breathing practices that can help us manage the emotions better, right? So all of these key elements are really important because they do influence our emotional and mental health as well. And so I just thought it was very important to mention this as well. And so now, last but not least, how can we track our cycles? So I would highly suggest to keep a journal so you can really track and write down everything that is happening. So you want to take a journal and literally journal every single day and just really write down, well, what phase you're in, what your emotions look like, how do you feel, what energy is available, what your body signs are, like what are the symptoms, also how you were sleeping, like did you sleep okay, did you sleep less, how did you wake up, what kind of food you're eating, like are you craving more junk food, or are you not hungry, or do you need to drink more, I don't know, caffeine, what's going on, and how your behaviors look like, and how you may maybe live your day to day. I like to give my clients a log that's basically an Excel sheet where they just track in this sheet every single day, like the date, what date they're in, what phase they're in, the mood, the kind of emotions, the kind of thoughts they have, how they're behaving, what their needs are, their sleep hygiene, their routines. Because over a period of time, so like 3 months, 3 cycles, for example, you can start seeing things with a different perspective, right? You can see your sheet, you can go over through your journal, and you can really start finding the patterns. So you will then realize, oh, every time I'm in my premenstrual, I have a really hard time communicating. I deliver really bad presentations or I can't express myself well. Oh, I have to look at this. or I feel very, very, very tired in my menstruation and something's not right, I'm bleeding way too much, maybe I should check my hormonal imbalances. Or maybe in my menstruation, I just really want to be indoors and I don't really want to cook anything. So then you know that maybe you can do your groceries a few days before and prepare for the phase that you're going to enter. So it's a very powerful tool so you can see things with perspective and so you can start seeing your patterns. You can also use trackers like application trackers. So I use an app that's called PC, but I know that there are apps that are called Natural Cycle, Flow, and Clue. And basically, you kind of, write down the day that you bleed. And so it lets you know what phase you're in. Also, if you want to conceive, well, your fertility days. You can also, note down your mood, your energy, if you're drinking water, your emotional state, the kind of activity that you're doing, like physical activity. And you can kind of track this. There was a moment where I was using the Aura Ring. So it's basically like helping me understand my sleep patterns, but they also integrated like your menstruation phase as well. So in this tracker, I could see like, ooh, how my physical activity was fluctuating, my sleep, how it was affecting my sleep. And so based on this information, I could then change my routines, the workouts I was doing, the kind of food I was eating, how I was resting, and kind of adjust my day to day in a way that could benefit me. Then also there are different techniques to track. So there is basal body temperature and cervical mucus. These are two techniques. Basically, the first one, BBT, is very helpful for you to know if and when you have been ovulating. And then the cervical mucus basically helps you know that ovulation has happened. So these techniques or these tools are helpful if you want to conceive or you don't want to get pregnant, or also to check hormonal imbalances. And for these ones, I would suggest you working with an expert, so like a woman's health coach or like a hormonal coach or a nutritionist, something like this. But there are many techniques, many ways that you can start tracking your cycle. I believe that the easiest is to just journal or to track like in a log and really be consistent with this. Track and observe your mood, your emotions, your body signs, what you need, what you don't need, because it's so powerful over a period of time to just observe and notice your patterns. And again, every woman is different. Your needs are different. You start evolving as well. So maybe you start seeing a pattern for 3-6 cycles, and then you start noticing a shift. So my last storytelling moment is this. Not too long ago, a year ago, I was preparing for my wedding and I eventually tracked my cycles. And there was a moment where I had to make many decisions. There were many people involved, and I was living with high stress. And so as I was tracking, I noticed that in my menstrual phase, I was connecting with anger. I was connecting with resentment. And this was not normal in me. I wasn't connecting with this kind of emotions in my menstruation phase, right? So I was like, this is weird. And so I was just observing and noticing myself and seeing what was going on there. And I realized that what was happening is that throughout the days, throughout my phases, there were many moments where I was keeping in silence, like I was accepting things that I actually didn't want to accept. And I wasn't verbalizing them. I wasn't verbalizing what I actually thought, what I actually wanted, how I actually wanted things. I was kind of more accepting and letting other people just have their opinions. And this resentment was cooking in inside. It was building in. And so the moments where I was super vulnerable in my menstruation, it showed up. This resentment showed up. And so it really taught me that I should start placing my boundaries, that I'm overstepping my boundaries, that I should start communicating my needs, and that I should really express what I want, how I want, and what I need, to not kind of ignore what's happening within, right? So once again, this is why it's so important to bring cycle awareness, to start tracking your cycle, start where you're at, start the first day of your bleed. If you would like more information, reach out to me. If you are tracking your cycle, I would love to hear about your experience, how it's influencing your life, and what you have observed yourself. I hope this episode was insightful and really gives you the motivation and inspiration to really start connecting with your cycle. It's such a wonderful way to connect with yourself and get to know yourself, and to just really build this beautiful relationship with yourself. So thank you for listening. Hope to hear from you and see you in the next episode.